down. They might not physically be here, but it's flowing down. Imagine if that was
the consciousness of like everything right just behind me feels really intimidating. I have to actually start looking at the picture just so I was like, okay, I acknowledge it. Yeah, that's.
It kind of feels like that. It's like their rhythm or their breath flowing.
That's lovely. Well, and that's always happening anyhow, right? We just don't see it. Sorry.
It's like both sides, good and bad. So,
Always. Well, and I love the Northern Lights for that because you get to see so much, really, when you get to start paying attention to it, right?
Yeah.
And that's
unavoidable proof.
That's lovely, actually. That's a funny way to say it. Trying to see why it's not letting me see you. It's like almost letting me look at what's going on. It's just giving me a white screen. So I'm going to see if there's...
That's interesting.
I know.
A lot of the times the video doesn't work. It's just my voice.
I think that's what it's doing. Yeah, because it's registering our voices. And the nice thing is it's giving us a voice track for me, just my voice, and a voice track for you.
Okay, so maybe we just do it that way for now.
All right, well, then we're already recording, and that's perfect.
Look like, because it's as important as it isn't really.
Well, and if you feel comfortable, so like, what's your ideal way to meet with clients?
I like it in person, but it's easier without the image. Mm-hmm. The image is like, because when they open up to reconnecting, they start seeing things and it kind of they trip balls, some of them. Like some of them that are like seers and stuff, and they just don't know that yet. They start seeing things before and they're like fucking lost and what is that? What is that? What is that? But they don't say it they don't say it aloud. They say it in their head. So I'm like,
So
it just stops them from tripping balls, really, more than anything else.
Or at least gives them, it's like sensory deprivation tanks, right? Allows them to focus on the tripping of balls rather than having to go like, oh my God, hey, person that I see as well, like I'm panicking, right? So that way they can just focus on, it's like horse blinders.
Oh, okay, yeah, nice. Yeah, it's always like this. It doesn't normally work on video. Like it'll come up for a second and then it'll be gone. It's always gone.
Interesting. So have you noticed that when you meet with people for the first time, there's always some sort of either like a glitch or something like that happening, like so much power almost that it overloads some circuits?
Sometimes, yeah. There's a great amount of fear when they come see me, but they're like pushed towards me almost. And if they step into it, it's really great for them. But if they don't, then it's always that thing that sits there going, why didn't you? So it's a bit of a thing.
I can see that, and I had the same experience because the way you and I met was really random. Yeah. I had just put a picture of myself up on the internet going, I think someone in this shaman group might know why I'm putting a picture of myself up. And you had just calmly messaged me, like, hey, you want to chat? And for me, when someone's like, hey, you want to chat on the internet? Usually I say, no, thanks. Yeah. But with you, I was like, sure, why not? And it was crazy the way that instantly, well, the first thing that you said had made me really comfortable, but it's usually not something either of us would have expected because I think we were having glitching. And I think you were vocal about the confusion, and the first thing I heard was shit. And that was the most comfortable moment that I had ever had. So it was really cute that even though it was something totally against what my normality was, there was something about you that instantly offered that sense of warmth, which is very cool. And again, pretty rare because I'm the type that I have felt really at odds with the universe before. So it was really cool just to feel that sense of instant connection. So that nice. I was able to listen to you and to like believe that you could see me too, right? Because that's a huge thing. How do you normally get people to become comfortable with speaking with you, or is it just kind of flow out with time?
If they get through the first stage of meeting me, it's easy. Okay. It's always easy. It's always really simple to connect with them. But sometimes it's like I don't say it, but they they find that thing that needs a little bit of tweaking, and they go and do that.
Cool.
I just make it an interesting, creative way that they connect to those parts of themselves.
That's wicked. That's actually a really beautiful way to look at it.
Which is super amusing for me because my brain works quite intently. So I like that each person is individual and they're different, and it just flows from that. It's like, oh, this is what they're working on. Let's see how many different ways we can do it and which way that is theirs. But now I step back from showing them the different ways and then just asking them to step into what their way is. You know what the way is. Just do that. Yeah. Trust that.
And I think that's one of the best ways. They call that motivational interviewing, actually. And they use that in a lot of more like book therapy now, because it's actually proven one of the most effective ways. So you are actually doing a proven methodology, which is really cool.
A certificate. I feel ripped off.
Right? You're like, I always thought I was doing something else. No, motivational interviewing is just finding what someone's motivations are. So you're doing it from a different way because you're still, you talk to, I guess, the energies and the spirit guides and the ancestors around them, you said before to me, right?
Yeah, and plus I can sometimes hear their thoughts. I just like answer, and it's like, oh, you didn't say it loud, my bad.
So you must really weird out strangers that you just happen across then. Yeah, that's possible.
Normally, now I have an argument with myself first before I step into it. Like, is there a point to it? And normally what they do is they show me short-term gain or long-term gain, and like the pros and cons. So if I do, what opens up for them, and if I don't, what isn't opened up for them.
Oh, so you're like the choose your own adventure guide almost.
Yeah. Well, it's like I can do it or not do it, but if I don't do it, how bad that's going to be for them, and if I do it, how much of that isn't present anymore. Like what it changes. It shows me the changes.
That's power, and it's also probably daunting or like a lot of pressure almost, right? Like,
yes, it was fucking, I met this random person and I'd never met him before, and I was sitting there talking to his people, and then I was like humming and hawing about it, and then I just did it. And then I talked to him through the place that, like, it's a place over here. Like, it was his land, so this he's the mob from here. So it was his territory. And it was like there's a place that doesn't have water anymore, but it still has water. And that is a place where you heal this that's going on in there. And then it was about their dance, the healing dance that they have. And it was just about reconnecting. So his heart was sore. So I just kind of put my hand over his heart. And then his grandmother was there kind of just healing that to reconnect him to that. And then he had an arm. His arm he's been taking a lot of abuse. Some of it he's been doing himself, but this one was not. I don't fix anything if you've done it yourself. I might point it out, but I won't fix it. I won't show you how to fix it. I will guide you in a way that you could do it yourself at some point, but I won't do it because it's like we got our own lessons. And I just kind of put my hands over his shoulder, and I walked him through the process of healing that, what he needs to do and what he needs to focus on. And then I gave him the task of the rest of his body.
So you work with both like the spiritual well-being and you do some physical as well. So I noticed on your website.
Spiritual and emotional. It's a molding method, which is the Toru Manawa. It's Fatu Manawa, and Pu Manawa.
So can you explain? So Fatu Manawa and what was the?
Fatu Manawa is spiritual heart.
Okay, cool.
Manawa, which is physical heart, and Pu Manawa, which is emotional heart. So I work with aligning the three. It's like I look at it like we're trees, and that our roots go into the earth and our branches go into the sky, and that when we are standing strong and standing firm, it is more beneficial for us.
And actually, I've been noticing that with myself because you and I have been discussing how I've been working on realigning myself, and actually in my meditations, that's what I've been looking at is like the core self stretching up with the breath in to reach like the heavens and reaching out like a tree. And then when I breathe out, grounding by pushing out my small of my back and my stomach and going and feeling the earth and the root system and just kind of, doing that with breath work. So that's really funny that that's so prevalent in actually a few cultures. So where do the three addresses of the mind, body, and spirit come from? What culture does that come from?
It comes from every culture. It's just got different words.
Where did those words come from then? Is that Maori?
Well, those words are Maori, so yeah.
So yeah, you were basically a Maori practitioner. Now, where did you learn this from? Is this something that came through family?
I did a course.
Did you?
We call them wārangas. So I did quite a few of those courses to learn about it. And my grandparents actually taught our tribes like a brain management. So the understanding of each element of anything, like you just pick up something and you put the emotion to it. And that was a way to connect in the learning sphere. And then it kind of went from there because I've got most of their books too. And they were professors and stuff.
And this were your grandparents who were the professors?
Yeah, professors. And then my grandmother decided to be an artist instead.
That happens.
Weaves everything. And she weaves and she carves and all that. She stays away from carving because she gets too lost in the wherever.
in the casting.
In the void. We call it the void.
I understand that. I actually call that when I'm home alone, I feel like I go to the void. Because people are like, well, what did you do all day? I'm like, I can't remember. I went to the void. Or I went to avoid all my problems, avoid my to-do list. Yeah. Not the void, avoid. Whatever one was accepting of me that moment.
The word is the word. The feeling is whatever it is.
That was funny because words, when you look at them, like things like avoid, I never thought about that till recently, is that, I go to avoid my problems, right? And it's so funny because like the concept of occult is a secret hidden in plain sight. So a lot of words really tell you point blank what something is, but we almost look around it. And that's, you've kind of said that too, is a lot of people have the sensors, the ability to tune into these things, but we just turned it off, right? So you were mentioning earlier about people kind of going a little brain cuckoo when they're meeting that power of themselves. Can you explain more of that? Like what you've seen?
I can explain it from my point of view. It's like an overload of connection to self. It's like everything opens up. Like if it's not done safely, it's psychosis. It looks like psychosis.
And I think that's like schizophrenia and stuff like that too, right?
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of that.
Like brain overload. When you're not using it and you start all of a sudden to just do everything at once, it's like short circuits kind of thing. So I like to step it through a bit slowly, and I just like to focus on that one point at a time, unwrap that one point, let it sit. And then, if everyone only had one problem, it'd be quite quick. But it's normally a process, and in that process allows that space for you to just get comfortable with that uncomfortable step that you just took. Cool. And that's really just integration.
And that's always why a guide is needed for anything, because the first step through a pathway is usually uncomfortable. You don't know what kind of treacherous creatures live in those bushes. And I guess you would be an expert from there. Where you're from, I joke that it's kind of Death Island to me, or my kind, because a lot of things. So actually, where do you come from originally?
I come from New Zealand.
Okay. And now
I live in Australia.
Yeah.
So I live in Australia. It's as long as you. It's like I kind of look at the animals like I look at people. If you don't mess with them, they normally just leave you alone. Yeah. Like, you don't have to. You don't have to. Like, if you choose to, then, science.
Good way to explain it. That's awesome. So, your name, actually, we didn't get to the proper intro. So, your name's Te Aroha Nui, or just Nui for short. And what's your business all about?
My business is about reconnecting that inner child within that can just find not just the fun and things, but the creative ways to get through those different periods that seem grindy.
And that's again where most people need that friend or that guide or a person who might have experienced things before they got to it. What kind of topics do you find often come up with your clients?
Often it's a disconnection from the family members, like, and the sadness that that brings them, and how they can change that by the way they connect with themselves.
Very cool. Do you have any ideas or tips or tricks if somebody is learning this kind of stuff on their own, that's something they can safely start to explore before they meet someone like you?
Just knowing the difference with the what is yours and what is not yours. What is yours feels good, what is not yours does not. That is how I started my journey.
Cool.
Differentiate all the things I was picking up. Because normally, if it doesn't feel right, it's a bit of a guidance thing. Sometimes the anxiety is not about not doing it. It's about not knowing that you've got to step through some kind of fear or some kind of thing that it bridged to get to the other side. We teach all that is past fear is love. So if you know that all on the other end is only love, then stepping through is just stepping through.
Because a lot of times the fear is one that pathway to getting to the best stuff. Often, you have to get past that fear. And a lot of people I find who don't step past that fear, say the fear of hurting someone's feeling by stepping up in your own right, the fear of leaving a situation that's not quite suited for you, all these things. And if people sit on that fear, I've heard it be called, like, if you don't fight the war outside of you, you take the war inside of you and you end up fighting yourself, kind of thing. And that's what I've noticed as well. So that's how we get like a shadow form leakage and things like that, where we haven't fought the battles in our daily lives, so we'll drink until we black out, and then our spirit fights with us out without us being aware. And I've seen that so many times. And some of the best, most beautiful people, they decide to save someone's feelings and they shave off their own edges until they're a ball of rage. So,
It often affects the physical form as well. It sits in the cellular memory, and that's kind of why I work on the physical as well. We have miri miri and romi romi, which is like lomi lomi and deep tissue massage. So it works with the meridian points, and we use things like plants. So the leaves of the plants have their own essence, or we call it wairua. And so by using those, it's like the wairua from it permeates with the body.
cool.
We use sticks and stones because sometimes there's some hard points that have been like blocked or not addressed for so long, and they need a little bit more. But yeah, I prefer not to, because I find that my connection is quite strong without touch, and with touch, it's I often see more than I want to.
So that means you get to pick in more messages, like you almost, because of the touch.
I get to have more choice in it with the actual touch. Aside from hugs, I love hugs.
Yeah, that's good. But a hug is a different, thing. Yeah. The chest to chest done.
Sharing of heart connection, love connection.
Yeah, so I guess the service connection you might pull in more, whereas the heart to heart is legit.
I could say nothing and just hug them, and that would be the same.
Cool. Yeah, that's lovely. Hugs are, universally important, and something that I find we let go by the wayside a bit too much. And, we don't hug a lot of people anymore. Well, especially right now with COVID, for sure, hugs are disappearing. I actually did hug a friend today, and my line is, I will do things if it's worth dying for right now. because that's how I feel. So like a hug from a really good friend who's delivering me eggs to my door, that's worth dying for. I'm going to give her a hug. But
Okay, I literally just started just hugging anyone now. Like if I meet them and do something, then I just give them a hug. It doesn't matter if I've met them or whatever. And with my like, because it's called Constellations, it's kind of like a somatic thing, a shamanic methodology. But I always end my processes with a hug. Like with it, it's like that. That's like, you know what it is. It's that time again.
Well, it's like farewell. It's like a kiss on your cheek. You know, it's time to go. That's lovely. Very cool. Have you seen any commonalities within all your clients? Do you see that there's certain archetypes that keep coming back, or people that you're familiar or like working with?
They each teach me something different. So for each of them, they gift me with a new thing to look at, to reconnect within myself as well. So learning the ones at the moment, it's about quieting the noise. When you have got so many talking to you at the same time, it can be really exhausting, and you might want to escape from that or avoid it through drinking or any number of things. And then the body feels it. So I'm at this moment, I'm on the journey of focusing on the 3 hearts as a general standard, focusing on the areas in which the pain is in the brain and where that connects to in the body and why it connects that way and what can be integrated from that understanding. And then it's about learning how to visualize that healing that is, and then incorporate actual physical well-being. So whether it's plant medicine or whether it's just a decent diet or stuff like that. It's a little bit like we can just go all spiritual and that's awesome, but the body will tell you that that's really not enough. And that's kind of where I'm at now, because I was just like doing all that and not focusing on the physical side. And so that's where I'm at the moment. I'm about to hide in a cave, avoid for a couple of days and with myself.
Yeah, no, that's good. And you know what? This is a great time after you kind of release this energy of self out into the wild, you know, recompassing and refilling the vessel with, you know, that self-love, right? Because everything when you're reaching out, it drains you. And looking at, you were talking about energy exchanges, right? You know, when you put your energy out into the universe, how do you keep and fill yourself back up, or how do you keep the flow going, right? So what do you talk to about energy exchanges?
I have a new belief as a result of a few experiences I had, that our energy is our own energy and we don't give our energy out to anyone but Father Sky and Mother Earth. The twofold back, you give back twice as much as you take, is about splitting that for both of them. And that our energy is for us to fuel ourselves. So when we take that bit from them, which is, we still have a surplus. It's about when we start shifting all those blocks within us, our energy centers just revitalize themselves, and you don't actually need to. You can give people energy, but it's often, if they're not at that same vibration, it can be like giving someone the wrong blood, so to speak.
You know, and I think I really experienced that recently because I have a type A blood or something, right? Not actually, I'm like type O positive, but, you know, I've tried to give people my blood, you know, give people my experiences and tell them and like almost force it down their throats. And then they're like, look, Kayla, please, you're making me choke on this. I'm like, I thought this was good. It was my blood. But you can get someone sick off of feeding them, like especially force feeding them your blood. I think that's violent and gross.
You can do that with your thoughts too, and that's what people don't quite feel. I did that hypnotherapy course and I was violently ill. And what I learned was that I hold space quite well. So that's a good thing, right? But it wasn't just me that was sick. There was quite a few other people that were sick in it. And what I did notice was that when we force our thoughts through trance to people, they have their own natural mechanisms that protect them, and sometimes that is not for them. And that's how I made the connection with the pain in the head and what that means, like the frontal lobe and the back and the middle and each different part. I really need to learn the words, but I've just been lazy. I'm sorry.
And I find that it's sometimes difficult to find all the words in the universe to explain certain phenomena or behaviors or parts of the body, because, maybe some people don't find that bone in your arm humorous, right? I find it funny, but, you know what I mean? Like, there's multiple words for the same bits on a person. And cross-culturally, there's some colloquialism. I can't even say colloquialisms properly, but there's some words that, down in Australia, there's certain, like, there's awesome words. There's certain words, man, and they're absolutely, and up in Canada,
They make no sense.
Well, I think
Some make no sense. It's hilarious.
Well, my favorite is,
it's like it's just a play on words, really.
I love words, and I think you said one like sweet ass, and like we say that up here, but it's almost like different inflections, right? So it's really cute to see. There's sometimes the same words, but like the way you draw on one word or letter than someone else might, it changes it almost entirely, right? So it's really beautiful to see. And the cool thing about like spirit work and body work and stuff like that, a lot of that transcends language, because it's vibrations, it's body language, it's feel, right? And sometimes words don't necessarily have the same kind of inflection. I guess maybe in the Maori culture, it might be a little bit different.
It's like bad bread, moldy. It's like bad bread, yeah? So it's a rolling of the R. Every R is rolling.
Okay. Yeah, and like French, like I can sometimes do it, sometimes not. And there's good things, there's editing, so we'll be fine. Cool. That actually was a pretty decent chat. Was there anything that you wanted to go over?
One thing that's just come to me from actually speaking with you, so it's kind of for you, but it's kind of useful for everyone. The purpose of sleep.
Yes.
We kind of undervaluate it, but what sleep does, it gives us our natural protection for the thoughts of others and the emotions of others. That is its value, and that is why we should honor that time to sleep and rest.
Thank you.
That is all.
No, that's actually, I was going to say, one other thing that I learned from you was that my spirit guides are apparently exhausted. And we kind of mentioned that earlier about draining of energies. And it's always nice to even, your ancestors, the vibrations around you, to give that rest too, right? So, sleeping well so that, you stop making them protect you every waking hour and twice as many hours than most people take on. Things like that, right? So, realizing that everything has a time, place, and respect. You also mentioned different ways that you respect the energies and like the universe around you. Is there anything that you have to say to that? Just like how you talk to the universe yourself?
I look at it in a science terminology as atoms, and atoms are vibrational. So it's like if you stop and you make that intention to hear, then the ability to hear is there.
And we also talked about, I always call it spell casting now, but the power of words and power of what you say. Because you've caught me a few times and you've got me to re-trajectorize my language use.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we choose, it's like our thoughts and our words and our emotions. If we are focused towards what we do want or what serves us best, and we speak that into our existence, it's like breath is life. We call it taha.
Taha?
So to breathe it out is to give it life. To speak it out is to give it life. So when you speak it out, if you're going to say shit, if you're going to say really bad things, then it's going to come out just like that. You're going to see you're going to see it, you're going to hear it, and you're going to feel it. And you're going to be like, oh, so I was right. Well, yes, you're always right.
There's a line for that too, right?
Whatever direction, like it's your choice. Like, just make sure that's the choice that you want.
Pick your battles.
And then if it isn't, understand that there's a clean up. Like, just clean it up a little bit.
That's awesome. Yeah, and there was the words like, if you believe you are, or if you believe you aren't, you're usually correct, which is another way to say that, right? And even
I forget who it is. I wanted to reference them, but I don't know who they are.
Oh, I remember. Oh, I think that was Confucius.
Okay, cool.
The man who believes he is, or the man is most often correct, or something like that. Yeah, and I've been noticing that everywhere. There is something called what I call like my 6-to-1 rule. So if I catch myself saying something distinctly negative about myself, I have to go and try to say 6 positives as like a game / punishment. So nice. I call it a game because if other people find me doing it, they're like, Kayla, where's your 6? I'm like, oh, for crying out loud. Okay, so
great.
It's a great game, and it also makes
grace. So you've got sins, you've got graces that complement it. So you've come up with your own fun way to do the same thing. It's I think it's Hindi and it's originated. There's 7 chakras, 7 sins, 7 graces that balance them. The sins are just like a misalignment, and the graces just balance it back up. So you've kind of found your own way of balancing that, which is awesome. So cool.
No, and I love that you have like a lot of the studious background to it too. Another thing, when you were talking about the emotional lock, that was another really cool thing that I found recently. Or the way I say it is that whatever you feel, it's like a Where's Waldo game of emotion. When you're playing that Where's Waldo book. So I feel angry, and then you're going to find the angry Waldo on that page, and you're going to wait, and you're going to hunt him out until you find all the reasons to be like, oh yeah, I can be angry because angry Waldo is totally on that page. But how many times do you look for the happy Waldo? How many times, my joke is like, how many times do you look for the little black kitty on the Where's Waldo page? Because who knows, there could be a black cat on every single Where's Waldo page, but who would know?
I kind of look at it like, if I'm feeling an energy that is not, doesn't make me feel good, I just want to look at why that is, make friends with it, and let it go.
And I used to say, someone told me the line, turn towards the light. It's
not wrong to have emotions. It's not wrong to have emotions, just supposed to feel them.
This is what I've been getting told a lot more is, Kayla, you should sleep, and it's not wrong to have emotions. And I was like, both those things. But I'm learning. I've been hearing the echoes. I used to say, turn towards the light so that shadows fall behind you. But
there's nothing wrong with dark, though. There's nothing wrong with dark. There's nothing wrong with negative. When we try and play, it's like the narcissist victim thing. It's the same thing. It's just you're looking at it a different way.
Yeah.
It's like when you look at it and honor it for how it feels, then it shows you why it feels that way. And then you go, oh, what can I do? Oh, I can do that. Sweet as. It's like the worry thing, No point worrying about it if you can't do anything about it.
Right. Yeah. And that's why thought parking is a really cool tactic. Have you ever heard of that one?
I just say put a pin in it.
Yeah. But so people who can't put a good mental pin in it, you can write it out on a piece of paper, and so that when you can go address it when it's that thing's time. So if you have all these things swirling around your brain, you can just go, okay, write it out, and you can park it. So that's it's a put a pin in it, but in real life.
Yeah. A visual, physical thing.
And again, that's the tie, right?
Reinforces maybe that's a better way of doing it, because you're reinforcing both realms together.
I was just gonna say, it's like the way that you addressed learning something, right? So yeah, you can heal it spiritually, but if you don't make sure to heal it physically as well, that's when it would come back up and up and up, likely, right?
Yeah.
And that's
it doesn't magically go away.
No. And I've been working on my shoulders and realigning them, and that's the same thing. So I've been pulling like bad energy out of it, and some of it I even like popped like a myofascial knot, and it was so weird because it bruised, and then it made the skin above it scaly, and I had never seen that before. But I was like, oh, that might have been something toxic in there. Let her go. Love it. We're good. So yeah, it seems like there's a couple lines for that too, like the as above, so below, right? So if spiritually you're feeling nagged by something and physically you're being nagged at something, which came first? Which was the chicken? Which was the egg? Right?
Were they both at the same time?
Bango, right? I don't know. I wasn't there for the first chicken and egg. So for me, it's the same thing. But yeah, and it depends on what you identify with, right? And can you identify with the truth? Because if you're never staring at the truth, if you're making up some rhyme, reason, escape, justification, whatever, instead of seeing things for as it truly is, and like that's honoring the pain often, sometimes you're going to miss the message entirely. And if you don't catch the real message, something's probably going to keep nagging at you. It's like an angry housewife who won't necessarily give the straight answer of what's bothering her. And then the husband tries to just buy her flowers or this, was it our anniversary? Well, if you don't tell the true problem, if you don't see the true problem, you can't get a true solution either, right? So you have to
I kind of differ on that a little bit.
Good.
I kind of feel like sometimes it's just a portion we need to do. There's no race, there's no hurry. And when we take that time to honor each part of that different emotion we might feel in that story, it's easier for us to step through and feel safe.
Cool.
And sometimes even people can be grindy, just can be. So rather than making a big deal about them grindy, just looking at them for what you love about them instead.
Cute.
If you love them as you not wish them to be, not know them to be, wish it's just as they are, then like there's no pressure on either side to be any other way than they are. And it's like everyone just does whatever they do.
Yeah. I've also heard that if you want someone to display a behavior that you like to see from them, you just remind them of all the cool times they displayed that behavior and like you can encourage it. So instead of saying, why don't you do this? You're like, I loved it when you did that. Just period. And,
I'm going to try that a bit more.
Right?
I'm going to try that a bit more, I think.
I've been trying to work on, because part of me knows all these really cool skills, but doesn't apply them yet. So I'm excited to apply some of this knowledge eventually, because I'm a little sloppy still. I won't lie to you. Especially when it comes to anything that's emotion. However, my new thing is if I feel an emotion, either a high or a low, I stop and I'm like, okay, it's bait. I'm like, someone's trying to trap me, either myself, the universe, someone else. And emotional rise means that I need to look at this with true eyes and see what I need to be here to do. Now, is that to love the person across from me more? Because it's bait, I find, is something is trying to get me to behave outside of my normal. If I'm too excitable, I can
Can I just get you to take a breath? Just take a breath.
Yep.
Kind of breathe in the love that is in all things and then release whatever that is. Just let it go. Knowing that it's all nullified and everything that wasn't for you goes to where it belongs.
Thank you. And I already feel calmer. I also like it when you make me quiet down for a second, because
sometimes when it gets too busy, it's easier just to take a breath. It's a simple thing. Mm-hmm. Take a moment. If it's getting too fast, that means it's too much coming in. And we use fuck all of our brain, you know. So when you're like overloaded, it's like, what do I do now?
Because you were able to spot something I was verbally doing, maybe not actually seeing it manifest, but you saw my brain kind of like swirling around in a little hamster wheel when I was trying to explain to you things before. And you gave me a really beautiful...
I could hear all the voices of you. So it's like all these parts of people. Sometimes they're screaming, sometimes it was like they were bickering with each other. Like you had conflicting thoughts and they were like, this one's going off and this one's going off and this one's going off. And then the other ones had 2 cents and I was like, fuck me.
And this is why I appreciate you, because I can't hear even myself speaking until it's sometimes too late and it's already out there in the universe. So taking that time to breathe and recollect all these like selves that are trying so desperately to...
It's like, you guys are all right, just give me a minute.
And that's the only way to make a team work, is realize that everyone's right from their own perspective, right?
You just got to get them to look at the clock. So I use a clock as a way of understanding it and stepping around from 1 to 12. And just going, oh, it looks like this, it looks like this, it looks like this, it looks like this. They're all right. Okay, cool. How do we combine that? What's in the center, really?
That's so cool. And that's actually, yep. And that was a really cool thing because I was talking about a clock face, right? A lot of people, when you think about, how many spots are on a clock, you think 12. But really, there's that 13th spot, right? Conducting
it's
all the rest.
That it's mathematically unbalanced. So it's almost like it's the anomaly in the center. So there is 13 parts, but the center part is the 13. And if you look at a dreaming wheel, there's always a center piece, and it's split into 4.
Cool. So
it's still 13, but it's just not got a number there. It just is.
Cool.
That makes sense.
That. Yeah, it does. And
that's kind of how I look at it. It's still 13. It's 13, but it's 12.
Yeah.
But it's whatever.
Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah. And even numbers, right? Baker's dozen, if you will. It's 13. Yeah. 12 is 13 so many times, especially with that astrology.
Just a mind warp is why it was just made so it was divisible by these numbers that we decided to be a thing.
Actually, yeah. Because there's supposed to be 13 months in a year as well, right? There's 13 women's moon cycles. There's so many. Me and the number 13, I'm just, we shouldn't have gone on here because that's like one of my new favorite.
13 is 4, which is foundation.
Pardon?
13 is 4, which is foundations.
Okay, cool.
So that 13 coming up for you is about looking at your foundations. That's why it keeps coming up.
Cool. Yep, I have
Look at your foundations and look at your poles. It's like your house has those 4 corners. Make sure your corners are solid. And then look at each of those corners for the value that they hold, and then roll that shit out. Run it.
That's awesome. Fantastic. And this is, honestly, this has been one of my favorite talks, besides the other talks that we've had, because those were pretty much my favorite before this one. But this one, I've really found that we got a lot of cool things out on the table. So how can people reach you? What's the best way if somebody wants to reach out to you, maybe try to book a consultation or a meeting?
I've got a website.
Yep. Okay. How do they get to your website?
It's nuis808.net.
Okay. And so I'll also, wherever I post this up, I'll make sure to include links to it. And then maybe we'll work on getting you some sort of scheduling ease pathway so that people can come talk to you faster. Because that would be another great thing. So I guess people can expect more videos or audio from us in the future. But until then.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Let's pick a topic and just be like, what's this about?
I think that's great because this was absolute fun. And I'm going to stop that here.